Hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 17 of the Karen Knits podcast. My name is Karen, and I'm coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania, where I live, where I work, where I knit, and where I get into all kinds of other crafty... How many times do I have to do this? Clearly more than 17. Okay, let's try this again. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 17 of the Karen Knits podcast. My name is Karen, and I'm coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania, where I live, where I work, where I knit, and where I get into all kinds of other crafty adventures. This podcast is primarily a knitting podcast, although I do have other topics that I look at on this channel, but what I tend to do is I tend to put those into separate playlists. So I have some playlists that are related to, or a playlist that's related to junk journaling. I have a playlist for, I'm going to have a playlist for art journaling. I have a playlist that looks at different things I bought recently that are non-knitting related items. So I have several different playlists, and one of those playlists is the Karen Knits playlist, and that's where you'll find all of the podcasts that are focusing specifically on knitting, sometimes crochet, and other fiber related topics. If you are a new viewer, welcome. I'm so happy you've taken the time to sit down and join me for a little bit. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I'm really happy to see you here again. So pull up a chair, pull up your knitting or your crochet or some other craft, grab yourself a beverage, let's sit back and spend a little bit of time together, and I'll tell you about what I've been up to in the last roughly 10 days. I last filmed a podcast on the 1st of January. And today when I'm filming, it's late in the morning on Friday, January 11th. So it's been 11 days since I've last filmed. So usually when I do my podcast, I gotta put my notes down so I don't end up dropping the things. So frequently I have some kind of tea with me that I'm drinking. Today it's just a cup of, or glass of water. Nothing interesting, nothing exciting. I've already had a big cup of tea this morning, and I'm kind of caffeined out for the morning. I might have some herbal tea later on today, but I'm good with just water for the day. So let's talk about my knitting. If you watched last week, you should remember that I mentioned I want to be a little bit more monogamous with my knitting this year. And I really want to focus on a couple of the works in progress that I have sitting around that I haven't spent a lot of time with recently. So these are the kind of projects that when I cast on something new, they get kind of put to the side and I don't really spend much time with them. So what I want to do for at least the first part of the new year is work through the current whips that I have and get those done. Now granted, I do not have a lot of work in progress, or works in progress, whips. I don't have a lot of whips laying around that I'm not working on, or that I'm kind of moving from one to the other. Currently, I think I have 3. So I am probably fairly close to a monogamous knitter. But I honestly do find that when I start something new, that's the one that interests me, and I work on it for quite a while, and then something else catches my attention, and then I put that aside and start working on the new one. And then after a while, I cast on another new project, and everything just kind of shifts one step to the left and out of sight, out of mind. So I am making a conscious decision to try to get at least 2 out of the 3 whips that I have done and finished with. So I have my sock scrap blanket done in mitered squares, and that's one I've had on the go for far too long. It's one that I am going to put a really focused effort this year in working on that and getting it finished this year. With that being said, I haven't touched it yet this year, so it's actually probably the 3rd one on my to-do list. I also have my Texture Time shawl, which is the pattern by Stephen West. It was a mystery shawl knit along that began, I believe, in October, maybe November, one or the other. It started this past fall. I had trouble keeping up with it. It was too much for me. It was, with the time constraints I do have, it was a little bit too much knitting to keep up with each and every week, so that, or each and every time period when a new clue is released. So a lot of people finished it on time. I lagged far behind. So that'll be the next project that I'm really going to focus on and really make a strong effort to get that finished and get it off the needles. It's not quite half done yet. So I still have a fairly significant amount of work left to do on that. And I suspect next week I'll be able to show you that in some more detail and talk about the different clues and what I've done and where I'm at with that one. But for now, that one's in the wings. That's the next one. Although I'm just, my fingers are just, they're itching so badly to cast on something new. So I'm restraining myself as best I can. I really do want to get the Texture Time shawl, if not finished, at least get another goodly amount of work done on it. But what I've been focusing on, so I really don't have a lot of knitting to show you this week because I've been focusing on one project only, and that is my Rowe cardigan, which is currently a big blob of nice squishy yarn. I think when I talked to you last week, I had finished knitting all of the different pieces. So the back piece had finished quite some time ago. The sleeves I had finished a little while back, and I had just finished the 2 front pieces. So the next step I had was to start putting the pieces together and then start working on the ribbing section that goes all the way up one side, across the back of the neck, and then all the way back down the other side of the front. And right now, after working on this actually sounds almost bad when I describe it this way, working on it only this for the last 11 days, I've managed to get all of the pieces are sewn together. Everything is assembled. All of the ends are sewn in and weaved in. And I've picked up all of the stitches around the front, around both sides of the front and across the back of the neck, which in the size I'm making is 420 or 430. A lot. It's a lot of stitches. I want to think it's either 420 or 430. I forget now exactly how many there were. It's over 400. I want to think it's, again, either 430 or 420. So anyways, that was a lot of stitches to pick up. And then it calls for doing a ribbing around the front, along that 420 or 30 stitches. You do a 2x2 ribbing for 8 inches. 8 inches over 400 and some stitches. And then once you finish that part, you fold it in half lengthwise and stitch it down or close it up so that you've got like a double thickness band going down the front. So this is really awkward to show because I have my needles and cable are in here. I have, check out check out my fancy little needle stopper things. They are hair things, hair elastics, and I've just wrapped them around and around and around the end of each needle, and they work. They stay in place. They don't go anywhere, but those are my fancy high-end are they called needle stoppers? Tip protectors? What do they call the things that you put on the end so that your needles don't come loose from the stitches? Anyway, if somebody knows what those are called, tell me. I'd be curious to know, because I'm just calling them little needle stoppers. I somehow doubt that's the proper name for them. But anyway, I stopped at the end of a row, and I'm going to try to show you what I have here. It's likely going to be a lot easier to show it once the cables are out, because the cable is a little bit on the short side. It's fine for doing the knitting, but for showing, it's not. So here's what I have so far. I really have no idea if everything's in the screen or in frame. So the sleeves are set in, sewn up. Side seam is done. Same with the other side. The sleeve is in, all stitched up. So it's really pretty cable down the side of the sleeve. Nice cable panel down all the way down the front. And then all these fantastic cables along the back. So again, it's really awkward to show the whole thing right now. This really pretty little stitch marker that my friend Tracy gave me for our Advent yarn swap this past year. I think this is one that her sister made. It's a really pretty little marker. So it marks the midway point, so it's halfway through all the stitches. But as you can see, there are, let me try to see if you can actually see. So here's what the panel looks like along the front. I've got a little marker here showing where I picked up the stitches and where it attaches to the front piece. And right now I'm almost at 4 inches. I'm just a little bit shy of 4 inches, and I've done 21 rows. And when I did an estimate of how many rows I would have to do, I just did a measure on the ribbing around the bottom of the sweater, and I estimated I would probably need about 45 rows to bring me to 8 inches. So right now, looking at 21 inches is almost 4 inches. My guess was fairly close, or my guesstimate in measuring out was fairly close. So I'm about halfway done all of this. So in the past 11 days with my free knitting time, this is what I have accomplished. I've got everything sewn together. I have all the ends are woven in. I think even the starting end. I can't even find the starting end. Yep, even that one is sewn in. So all I will have to stitch in at the end will be the end or the yarn that is attached to the body of this right now. So it's coming along nicely. I can't wait. Ouch. I just poked myself with my knitting needle. Anyway, so I can't wait till I can start wearing this. It's nice and cold out here now, so I am so ready to be able to wear this sweater. So I'm really hoping that come next week when I podcast again, I'm so hoping that I can show you a finished object. It's getting really close, and I really have high hopes that I will be able to finish. I have my yarn is sitting in my Christmas present yarn bowl that my husband gave me. I think I'm going to have to cake up one more skein of the yarn that I'm using for this. This is not, what I have now is not going to, it's not going to make it to the end. I've used quite a bit more than half the hank of yarn that I caked up and now rolled up into a ball. I've used well over half of it to only go halfway through the ribbing along the front. So I am going to need to go into another skein of yarn. I'll have to double check and see just how many skeins of yarn I actually did use. I'll check and see with what, I'll just have to do a count with what I have left over. So I'll give you a little bit of details about what I used for this. I am knitting it on 4.5 millimeter needles, although that was for the body of the sweater. All the ribbing sections, so the ribbing on the sleeves and around the bottom of the sweater, and the ribbing around the front are done on 4 millimeter needles. So I think that's a US 6. If 4.5 millimeters or 4.5 millimeters is a US 7. So anyways, this is the Rowe cardigan by Michelle Wong. I am using Knit Picks Bare Wool of the Andes worsted yarn, and it's just staying as the I'm leaving it in the bare colorway. I was thinking maybe I would dye it, but I actually very much like the bare colorway. I think it's really pretty, and I'm quite happy with a nice neutral color like that. It'll go with all sorts of different colors. I wear a lot of blues and pinks and greens, like a lot of the jewel tone. Actually, yeah, I'm just kind of looking over into my closet there. And actually quite a few of my clothing pieces are in jewel tones. So that off-white kind of Erin ecru cream color will go fantastically with a lot of the bright jewel tones that I do tend to wear. So I'm really excited about getting that finished. Let's just cross our fingers that I'm able to show you a finished object next week. So I haven't had as much time for knitting this past week, or a little over a week. I haven't had as much time for knitting as I have had over the past several weeks. We are back to work now. The university is back open for the spring semesters, so I'm back into the office and back into the classroom teaching during the week. So I'm not at home, and I don't have the same amount of spare time now that I had over the Christmas break. So my knitting time is sadly has declined quite a bit, but the flip side is that what I earn there keeps my husband and I in the lifestyle we've become accustomed to, and it allows me to buy yarn. It allows me to do a lot of the fun things I want to do. So the only other thing I want to talk about today, and this is going to be probably a little bit shorter episode. It's probably going to be closer to the half-hour mark. Like I had mentioned last week, I had stopped at our somewhat nearby Tuesday morning store, and I had bought 6 skeins of yarn that I was going to use towards making a cardigan. I've decided on the cardigan. I will show you that in just a couple moments. And what I discovered is that for that particular cardigan, I would need 2 more skeins of yarn. So I went back to Tuesday morning on Friday? Saturday? It was almost a week ago now. So I was over the past weekend, we buzzed out to Tuesday morning, and I picked up 2 more skeins of the blue yarn that I bought last week. So now I have 8 skeins of that, so that'll be sufficient to make the sweater I want to make. But they also had the same yarn in a nice dark gray. So it is Fibra Natura Lima, It's a yarn by, I think it's Universal puts it out. Yeah, I think so. So anyways, it's Fibra Natura Lima. It's 100% superwash wool. It is a worsted weight, and 100 grams, so the 100 gram ball is 284 yards. So I picked up again for and the same with the blue yarn I bought last week. And actually, if you just give me a second, I can reach over and grab maybe. Yeah, this is the stuff I bought last week. So I went back and I grabbed 2 more skeins of this. So now I have enough of that. And for this, they had 5 skeins of this pretty gray in stock. So I'm not sure if you can read that. Let's see if it's on. No, I'm thinking I think one of the things I want to get this year coming up is a nicer camera for doing podcasting and doing other videos. But anyway, so excuse me, they had 5 skeins of this really pretty gray at Tuesday morning. So I grabbed all 5 of them and brought them home to become some kind of sweater. This I haven't quite decided yet exactly what this one will grow up to be, but it will grow up to be probably some kind of sweater or maybe a wrap. I haven't quite decided. The other thing that I bought this week, or that I got a hold of this week, is Line. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. I've heard all sorts of different ways of pronouncing it, so I'm honestly not sure what the correct way to pronounce it is. Okay, so the Line magazine, so it's a Nordic knitting pattern, or Nordic knitting journal magazine, whatever you want to call it. I had seen pictures on Ravelry of this sweater, and I absolutely have fallen in love with this sweater. Sode. This is another one I'll have to learn how to pronounce. So this yarn is going to become this cabled cardigan. You think I'd had enough of cabled cardigans? No, not at all. What I really fell in love with, and I'm not sure if it's coming up that clearly on the pattern, is the detail on the back. The cables come down the back and then it separates at the back and goes into the ribbing section in a nice inverted V pattern. It looks so pretty. So that will likely be the next thing that I cast on once I put a dent in my Texture Time shawl, because if I just go straight into casting on that beauty, I'll be doomed. Texture Time will sit there and collect dust in the corner for who knows how much longer. So that's my incentive and my encouragement to get myself in gear and get some more work done on my Texture Time shawl, so that I can feel that I can cast on this new cardigan guilt-free. Don't worry, I don't feel guilty for casting on anything. It's just that I kind of made this little bit of a commitment to myself that I really do want to try to keep my whips to a minimum, and to try to keep my focus on just 1 or 2 projects ongoing at a time. So I really do want to get these old projects off the needles. The scrap blanket might take a little bit longer, but I do want to make a conscious effort of spending more time working on that and getting that closer to finished. I have not done a lot of work on it at all in the last few years. And I'm not exaggerating. I think I cast that on in 2014. So it's been a ridiculous amount of time, and it's still a long ways away from finished. So I really should. I think what I might want to do, I apologize because I'm kind of like planning things on the fly while I'm talking with you guys. But I think what I maybe should try to attempt to do is add a minimum of 1 square per week and continue with that. So at least I will end up with a goodly amount done by the end of the year. Hopefully I'll have it finished, and hopefully end up doing more. So what I might end up doing is adding a square onto it. Maybe every Sunday afternoon I'll set aside some time to work on adding another square to that blanket. So the other thing, since I picked up this one issue, I've heard a lot of people talking about the Line A magazine on different podcasts, and I've been curious about it. And then when I found that one particular cardigan pattern, I thought I absolutely want that. I want to at least get that issue. So issue 6 of, oh sorry, I just bumped the tripod. Sorry about that. Once I saw that pattern, I thought I want issue 6 of the magazine. So I started hunting around for different yarn stores, not really close to me, but yarn stores that were either in Pennsylvania or Maryland, we're just only a few miles from the Maryland border where we're living. So that I'll get in touch with them and see if there's some of them that would be willing, if they still had a copy of it, and if they would be willing and able to mail it to me. So I contacted quite a few, probably half a dozen to a dozen stores, and I found one that had a copy, and she was willing to put it in the mail for me. So we got that all settled late last week or on the weekend, and she popped it in the mail on Monday, and it was here when I got home from work she popped it in the mail Monday or Tuesday? It was here when I got home from work on Wednesday evening. So now that I've seen it, I really like it. And now I kind of think I want to build a collection of them. In other words, I want them all. I do tend to have a all or nothing kind of attitude on some things. And a couple of the yarn stores that I contacted, one of them said, well, I have a copy of issue 1. Another one said, well, I have copies of 2 and 3. So I think what I might do is I might backtrack through and get a hold of the older copies. And so I know where I can get issues 1, 2, and 3. I have 6, so I'll only have to get 4 and 5. And I suspect I can probably get in touch with these different stores to find out if they have issues 5 or 6, or sorry, 4 or 5 that they have still in stock that they'd be willing to mail to me. So that's my latest thing that I want to start doing, is I want to build up my collection of those magazines. So I think I've rattled on for long enough. Like I say, I didn't have a whole huge amount of content for today, mainly because I had been working monogamously on only one project, and plus where I've been back to work, back into school this past week, I've had less time to work on my knitting than I have had over the past 3 weeks over Christmas time. I was a little bit shyer on content this week. Thankfully I bought some yarn and a book, so I had that to talk about a little bit. I will confess I did find a listing. Someone on the Facebook Marketplace was selling skeins of Quince & Co. Turn? I think that's the one it was. Anyways, she had some that she was selling at a really good price, so I ordered, I think it was 8 skeins of that, which will be enough for me to make a Tegna sweater. I've admired those, all of the ones that I've seen people making those. I've admired the sweater. I think it's a gorgeous, gorgeous sweater. And when you look in the finished project list, there's several people that have made that sweater using that same yarn, and it looks, they've been very happy with it. So I think it'll be something that'll work quite well. So I tricked you. You thought I was signing off a couple minutes ago and I kept rambling. Anyway, I am ready to sign off now. My voice is getting very itchy and tickly. I think I might have to find some kind of tea or something that'll settle that tickle. So it's been great to be back again after over a week off. I'm hoping to be back on a regular weekly basis. Hopefully next week you'll see my Rowe cardigan finished, and hopefully you will also see some progress on my Texture Time shawl. You'll also see some new yarn. I clearly am not doing well with my stash out being more than my stash in challenge for myself. I'm clearly failing on that one so far in January. I have to do some serious knitting and get some more yarn off, or get some more yarn knit up, so that I can actually say that I have more yarn being used than coming into the... So anyway, so that's a whole different topic for a whole nother day. Okay, here we are, January 11th. There's a guy out there on a motorcycle. It's only in the 20s Fahrenheit today, and windy. I'm looking at, there's a little flag on one of the storefronts out across the street, and that flag's just flapping away in the wind. So it's quite windy out there, and everyone else you see walking outside, they're all bundled up, but there's a guy out on a motorcycle. There's no snow. They're threatening it's going to snow this weekend, but we shall see. But anyway, I'm having trouble saying goodbye to you guys today, aren't I? Anyway, so next week hopefully I can show you a finished Rowe cardigan and progress on my Texture Time shawl. And otherwise, I think we should call it a day. I'll get going on getting this edited, get the file exported, and then hopefully I'll be able to get the file transferred over and uploaded onto YouTube before I go to bed tonight. If not, it'll be posted first thing tomorrow morning when I crawl out of bed. So anyway, have a fantastic week, everyone. I hope the beginning of your new year has been going fantastic. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, also click the, I think it's down here. Please click the bell icon so that you can get notified when I post new videos. Not all of them are knitting videos, so you can just take a peek, and if it's not knitting video, if knitting is all that you're interested in, then just move on along, not have to worry about it. But what else was I going to say? So yeah, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon. All of my information, my social media information is down below. I have a group on Ravelry, a designer group on Ravelry. I'm probably most active on Ravelry. I have a Facebook group, which I'm not very active on. And I'm somewhat active on Instagram. I'm trying to become more active on Instagram, although the recent things I've been posting on Instagram have been more bullet journal related. So I do kind of tend to mix up what kind of things I put on my Instagram feed. It's a little bit kind of like this channel. It's not really narrowly focused on only one topic. There's a lot of things I'm interested in, so I do tend to post different kinds of things. So anyway, I think it's taken me 5 minutes to say goodbye now. Anyway, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today, and have a fantastic week. Take care, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye now.